Among the early lessons of Earth is that when you build your space station that holds all of your communicable diseases, don't build a kill box to allow people to be put into so they might be affected with them. Here on Views Your Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
I was wondering how I was going to get to kill you. I'm your co-host, Peter.
We did 2 episodes on Borderlands. Honestly, I feel like we almost could have done 2 episodes on Home. And that might be the case for a lot of the Season 4 stuff, because I have a ton I want to get to. And something I missed when we talked about Home was more about the relationship between Hernandez and Archer. And how up to this point, Archer has been very, chaste as a character.
Minus Pokemon, yeah.
That's an interesting contrast to all the rest of the captains whose romantic lives are a much bigger part of their character, in my opinion.
Including Picard?
Including Picard. And I'll explain why. Kirk is portrayed as a classic romantic hero, right? Going, episode to episode, woman to woman.
Speaking of guys with their shirts off, yeah.
Exactly. And probably the origin of Star Trek having a relatively healthy female audience relative to other things. And then you have Picard, who's very restrained on purpose in this part of his life, to the point where it becomes a key plot point in many ways. He doesn't have children, he doesn't have a spouse, and he has chosen to sacrifice these things to achieve perfection in his career. And he has a couple flings, and those flings interfere with his ability to execute on this perfection, and that's why he doesn't pursue them. And the one woman he's really interested in, he can never adequately pursue in a way that makes it work with his career.
Did you see all the drama with him and Vash?
Yeah, that he actually banged her IRL and got divorced over it.
Real dick move, huh?
Well, yes,
I don't know if
in that case.
I don't know if Patrick Stewart putting that autobiography out really ultimately is doing him any favors.
Well, that was a story that was out there for a long time.
I never knew about it, man. That's
why when you saw him kissing Vash, it's like he's going for it, right? He was enjoying that on and off camera. But and then Cisco, his drama is actually something I'm really looking forward to unpacking with you, since you're a father. He's a single dad. He's raising his son. His wife has been killed. He's also trying to seek, what do you do in that circumstance? And then Janeway, obviously, we covered that, right? She struggled with finding some way to have a romantic partner because she can't bang anyone on the ship. And everyone knows that, which is why she ends up with a holographic boyfriend by her own description.
That's on her. She had a perfectly good space mark.
She did. She found a space mark. Yeah. It was in the 7th season, though. That was after she was banging the hologram.
Yeah. She had plenty of choices. She had plenty of opportunities and chances, and she always made the choice to be alone, which was that her choice, or was that the homeostasis requirement by the end of every episode of Voyager to hit the reset button? Which, where would that have gone if there wasn't a demand on the show to return to normal?
I would have loved to have seen that alternate universe version of Voyager that had Enterprise's level of continuity. That would have been a fascinating show, and it probably would have...
Battlestar Galactica?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it probably would have looked a lot like Battlestar Galactica.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then Archer, they finally kind of give him a real romantic partner. And I like Hernandez a lot. I think we both came to that conclusion while we were watching the episode that she makes sense as Archer's.
I need to see her as a command authority figure before I say I like her as a character. As a romance option, sure, she's good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. As a romance option, she really works. But they really waited until kind of the end of the show to even kind of give him that element.
It's not the end of... it wasn't supposed to be the end of the show. This should be the midpoint of the show.
I think they knew it was over, though. And they started to... they brought it in, and it was good that they did.
Right, but they didn't know this was going to be the end of the show until, the end of season 3? So if you had a rough idea in your head of how this show was going to play out, there's certain things all right, we want Archer to be a bad captain for the first 2 seasons, and then 3 and 4, he starts getting his act together, and then 5, 6, 7, he's going to be a great captain. Romance this, Trip Tucker, and to Paul that, by the original plans that I'm sure they laid out, season 4 is rushing to realize a lot of the long-term stuff that should have been slow drip otherwise.
Fair point. Fair point. But yeah, let's go, man. There's so much to unpack. What did we watch this week?
We're getting into season 4, episode 5, Cold Station 12. First aired November 5th. Oh, that'd be 5 days ago. We're on November 10th here. 2004. This is directed by Mike Viger, written by Michael Bryant, which I don't think we know Bryant from anything, do we?
I think Mike Bryant only writes this episode in Daedalus, which is another episode this season. Yeah. This is just so packed with everything I'm not used to from Enterprise. I watched it twice. Some of the best acting and complexity I feel like I've seen in some time in Trek. And I remember after getting done watching it the second time, I went to Facebook, our Facebook group, which everyone should join, and said, like, I'm really glad this show is as good as I remember, because I haven't watched the 4th season in so long because I've been saving it, for when we were going to review it, that I wondered, like, am I imagining that it's good? Am I imagining that it's compelling drama that has a lot of going on? No, actually, it's good. It's very good. And there's a couple spots where, the seams show, particularly like the CG looking over at all the embryos near the end. A couple spots terrible. Like that doesn't quite work, but it's a lot of the stage acting elements of it really do. The moral conflicts all hit super well.
There's 2 big things that this episode has going for it, and you just named them right there. You've got good actors in play. Brett Spiner, I'm looking at you.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got just classic Shakespearean elements at play that there's a lot of room to explore. On paper, or to just flipping through the show, if this is on cable, this should look like trash.
Yeah.
The set pieces are basic as fuck. The CG is bad. There's some pretty decent fights in here. But the stuff that really matters is, like people being interrogated, watching someone suffer. And it all ties into budget, right? So Brett Spiner, who went 7+ years as Data, never being able to really play emotionally and having to maintain shtick, gimmick, whatever you want to call Data's limitations. And now he's got a very passionate and emotional human being, and it's a great chance for him to stretch his wings and really fly with it. And this entire episode rides on his back. There's good actors in the Enterprise cast, and at this point, Scott Bakula's being given scripts to portray an Archer that is not a complete fucking piss-soaked tampon, right?
Right. The days of the night in sickbay Archer are long gone.
But he's not really the focus on this. So the budget constraints you're seeing in Enterprise, contrast that with season 7, season 6 of Enterprise, where they had baller-ass budgets. They were one of the biggest shows on television.
Season 6, season 7 of Next Gen?
Next Gen, I'm sorry. Is that what did I say?
You said Enterprise.
Sorry, Next Gen. Then you come over to this, which for all intents and purposes, they're working on the budget of like community theater,
Oh, yeah. $800,000 an episode. Not much. Even then.
And still able to put on compelling, deep-ass shit.
And we have said this before. It remains true. When you limit the budget, you prevent people from doing gimmicks. You prevent people from doing showy things. What do you have to return to? You have to return to stage drama. The cheapest thing in the world. People talking to each other and having some kind of interaction, conflict, or argument. And each of the most compelling and uh, captivating in some cases scenes in this episode have to do with just people in a basic set talking to each other, and where actors get to explore their craft and create in the camera with the material, and that costs you nothing. And like you said, they made use of who they had here effectively, and even the overacting nature of the augments themselves actually really works here, where it was kind of a detriment last week when they're all kind of
Yes.
interacting with each other.
Yes.
They're not interacting with human characters at all, right? And it just kind of comes off as cheesy and weird. Now they're more in conflict for the entire episode, and you start to see how this isn't funny. All right, like these guys are fucking monsters, and there's a reason why. And then it just changes the tone of everything that you're experiencing with them. So
Again, very interesting to watch this stuff after having just watched Strange New Worlds, where they really try to plead the case that genetically engineered humans, are nothing to be ashamed of, and
that I
Federation
hate that
acceptance.
episode even more after having been reminded about this episode particularly. Like, because this makes such an compelling case as to why humans are banned from doing genetic engineering. They banned themselves from doing genetic engineering. That's what this episode finally tells you, is we couldn't fucking handle having this power. We nearly destroyed ourselves, and we had to say no one's allowed to do it. It is the most forbidden thing, because we just saw what a small amount of these fucking psychos can cause.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get into that when we arrive kind of like where that explanation happens between Archer and Phlox, but we
We open up in this episode with, was it 11 years prior?
correct, when he's with them as children.
Interesting that Soong's got green eyes. I didn't pick up on that before. Brett Spiner's not allowed on the set unless they're putting contacts on, I guess.
Poor guy. Had to be more comfortable, I guess, though.
Listen, as long as he doesn't have the cake white makeup, I think he's happy. And again, to him specifically, this came out 2004. What year was Nemesis?
2003.
So this is right at the tail end. He's still looking good.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, he had a lot of complaints that I saw, about wanting to hang up the Data character. I can't keep playing this guy that's supposed to be frozen in time, where I'm getting older and balder and fatter. And it's like, I don't know, man, you're still looking pretty good in this stuff.
I mean, this would have been when he was in his 50s. So, I mean, now he's in his 70s. This is 19 years ago.
Sure. But this is 11 years prior to the in-universe date, which is 2154. So this is 2143 when we're seeing the flashbacks here. And this is a Soong who has already stolen the embryos from Cold Station 12. And he is now raising them on whatever fucking planet it is. And this is like really cool, like, let's flesh out the idea that this Soong guy isn't just a lunatic, that he is a guy with a vision, but his attachment to these augments truly is paternal. And it'll go into deeper explanation later, where he's standing in this vault full of embryo storage. What was it? How many? 15,000 or something?
Yes. I forget, it was 1,500 or 15,000. 1,800.
The
1,800.
difficulty he had in picking only 19 of them, reviewing their files, knowing who the parents are, knowing the capabilities that these kids would have, giving them names, and picking 19 of his favorite to steal, bring to this planet, and actually give life to. And it's during these scenes where I'm forced to be confronted with the fact that the children actors are better than the portrayals that we got from the last episode. I'm like, damn, not only are these kids like decent actors, but they're better than the guys were fucking last week. Like, all right, give me some more of them.
When we flash back, we are on the bridge of the Klingon bird of prey that was hijacked, and Soong is coming up with his plan for raiding Cold Station 12 to get those embryos. And the through line here is his power struggle essentially with Malik and what forms that take. And they waste no time in introducing that conflict by Soon clearly wanting to do this with zero body count, if possible, because he is chaotic neutral, not evil, and Malik questioning that wisdom. And
we had talked last week. Is he a bad guy? Is he a villain?
he's the antagonist.
He's an antagonist, and this episode specifically hammers in the fact he is not. I don't think he's evil.
No, not at all.
He's got a vision, and it is not a great idea, but he's not out to bring around the underworld. Minus the comment about you better go back and get ready to learn Klingon, right?
Right.
There was hints of there was not hints. I mean that's pretty shitty. Unless his plan is I'm gonna thaw out all these guys and we're gonna take Earth back over and fuck any Klingons that are around because they're all gonna get kicked down the hallways and spaced. But everything you see in this episode, I think, again, go back to Rick Sanchez. He is not evil per se. Machiavellian, that's not even really Machiavellian. Like
he's a true believer. He thinks that
he's not willing. Like later in the episode, push comes to shove, and he demonstrates that he's not willing to go all the way.
Yes, that is probably the key drama right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
With how far is Erickson willing to go to accomplish his goals? That is what this episode is about.
I want to talk about Malik real quick.
Yeah.
Malik is the lead augment. Malik has claimed praxis over the group, having disposed of the previous leader guy. Malik is, for all intents and purposes, shaping up to be quite the pathological liar. And he's played by Mark Alexander Newman, or Alec Newman as IMDb goes. You want to talk about a fucking history. This guy, and it's funny too, because when you look at this guy as an actor in this role, what do you think his primary feature is?
His chin.
Physical acting, that he's
like
he appears to be a stuntman for all intents and purposes. And they said,
he does wushu, so he's got a physical presence. Yeah, absolutely.
The amount of voice acting this guy does is fucking ridiculous. You name a video game, this guy's a voice actor on it, and up to, and I would say the most important, this will be his name moving forward. This guy's Atom Smasher.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's Atom Smasher in Cyberpunk 2077. He's Atom Smasher in Edge Runners. And he's also plays Anders Hellman, which was the creator of the Relic chip, which is very pertinent because I just did that mission 3 nights ago where you get him in the hotel room.
He was Gabriel Angelos in Dawn of War? Damn. Okay, yeah. He's British. Okay, he's British.
Scottish, yeah.
Okay, this is making a lot more sense now. This dude is a real actor. But he's also... Okay, this also means he is very much a stage actor. Okay, like this is a guy who worked to be a stage actor. Oh, he was in the miniseries version of Dune as Paul Atreides.
He's Victor Frankenstein in the TV movie. Let's see, who was Graydon?
That makes that really works with the persona he went with this character. He's so over the top. That was clearly the direction he was given, was actually just being Ricardo Montalban. We speculated. I'm willing to commit to the idea that is what he was told to do.
He was a witch hunter in Witcher 3. So, yeah, interesting that, we'd kind of dismissed him off as a stuntman, and the dude's got massive voice acting chops, and it's interesting to see exactly what you're saying, that bigger than life presentation, which again fits what these augments are supposed to be. But yeah, Atom Smasher. So
it's all coming together. So the NX-01 did have some coordinates that they got from Soong before he managed his escape, which was the planet where he raised all of the augments, and they find themselves there, and they are poking through a sort of like a domed cave. It's kind of an odd structure where there's a lot of beds, there's a lot of technical equipment, there's tables, there's chairs. Then they start poking through, and sure enough, this is certainly where they were. Or I should say, Tucker finds that there's some unplugged medical equipment that they need to identify.
There's also the classic red laser tubes, which I found Memory Alpha actually Lower Decks named those Tucker tubes.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's nice that they did that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And Archer's like looking through old home movies of him like cutting birthday cake for him, and sure enough, we see lurking in the background there is a someone in post-apocalyptic gear lurking around with a knife. He in an unexpected twist of competency, he rustles against the wall, and Malcolm Reed is on the case with a gun in hand, properly pointed.
Yeah, he
There's
must
this.
have been scolded between season 3 and 4 about how to hold a gun.
Hey, remember that guy who died who was way better at your job? Hold your gun like he did.
Which, how crazy that they reused Hayes as the new first officer to replace Riker and Nemesis.
Well, it was actually Hayes was used as a Mako after that. So he probably got that work, and then they put him on doing Enterprise as a guest actor because they liked him.
Really?
Yeah. Probably happened now, probably along the same time. They're probably shooting both at the same time. So he's there and he gets both jobs because it's easy that way.
Sure.
This
well,
guy
listen,
is...
if Mr. Jump to Conclusions can be...
oh, hold on.
Spoilers!
Let's pump the brakes.
Spoilers!
I told you there was an amazing cameo this week.
Yeah.
They cornered this post-apocalyptic guy who's much smaller, much more normal looking, with a bunch of pointed phasers. But once Archer mentions he's from Earth, he tries to attack him, and you can't do that. Can't do that, Jonathan Archer. He has too many ways of giving you head wounds. He's experienced them all. He has strong in the Trek Kung Fu. He gives him a spinning back fist, and he falls to the ground. And so they have this unknown person who's clearly connected to the augments in some way, but is kind of a jabroni because Archer was able to one-punch man him.
Again, the scenes where they're showing of Soong doing a birthday party and like asking the kids, okay, who wants cake? I feel like it's so important to the episode and to the story arc because everything we've seen up to Soong up into this point has been that Rick Sanchez antagonistic, villainous mad scientist. And putting these humanizing factors in makes emotional payoff later in this episode so much more potent.
Yeah, agreed.
There's the Archer gets the jump to conclusion mat out, sees some cut fiber optic cables. Hey, what used to be here? What do you care, Cap? Let's. No, we need to know what this equipment was. It's important. I've seen the script. We need to know what this stuff is. There's gonna be important context clues.
I don't think there's a jump conclusions map
no.
there at all. You know that he already stole the embryos once. He raised them once. He did that somehow. You know it's his goal to do it again. I mean, come on. Like that's a pretty easy just little step forward to make. Like we should know what that is. Let's find out. I got a bad feeling about this.
Who is... I'm looking at this guy who we're going to meet here, Udar, this lurking shadows guy. For a second, I thought it was this Samwise Gamgee.
He's discount Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah.
I see it. I do see it.
He's in the commish. David Scally, is that his son? I never watched the commish.
Eric Erickson. Who is this? He's Canadian.
Hell on Wheels.
He's had a career. The last time though he was on anything was like 2016.
He's due for some Stranger Things, man. Come on, throw this guy a bone.
He could be Joyce's next boyfriend.
She reminds him a lot of her last boyfriend that got mauled by a...
well, I mean, this is... we're actually... Let's hold on this guy, because the next scene actually adds to the real drama, and that is Soong versus his son, Malik.
Right.
And this is framed around the murder that Malik executed on against the former alpha of the augments, Raskin.
So it's Soong sitting there looking at a pad, I remember this pad. I gave it to Racken, reminiscing, and again, this is a great side of Brett Spiner that we've never been able to see. He's always been mired by shtick, no emotion data, crumbling, falling apart, Elder Soong, psycho lore, right?
Right.
Now, hey, where is my son? We used to look at the stars together. He was so smart. He was so bright. Maybe there's shades of favored son there.
Oh
Where
yeah.
the fuck is he? Nobody's willing to say anything. I want answers.
And if there was any doubt in the viewer's mind that Malik was going to be,
Atom Smasher. Please use proper terminology.
if Malik was going to be Atom Smasher, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is probably erased right here because he clearly chooses to manipulate the fatherly feelings that Soong has, that he knows Soong has for him and everyone else, into accepting an extremely sanitized version of events where he punctuates his explanation with emotion, specifically to draw his desire to comfort him and forgive him into being. And the show doesn't explain this in any way except trusting you to have seen Malik's actions before, noted the malice in which they occurred,
Yes.
and then just watch him just openly lie about it and just look at his eyes at the end. That's it.
He says that they got in an
Such
argument.
maturity,
Yeah.
Like, I love it.
Says that they got in an argument. They both pulled knives on each other. He came after him. He stabbed him. It was too late. He tried to save him, whatever. No mention of, I set him up with a fucking shotgun that didn't have...
And had little things in the tubes.
That didn't even have bullets, let alone fucking holes for the bullets to come out of. The opening scene when they're 11 years ago, what was the classroom? Because it's Malik that is the center of the shot from the children. Was Malik putting off creep vibes there? I don't remember.
I don't think so. They were all... I don't think it's just...
It was just Soong basically saying humans hate you and you need to be careful, right?
Right. The idea here is, of course, that Soong is responsible for what me sowing this is great, me reaping what the fuck.
Yeah.
So we see this, and we see Soong's compassion. We see Soong's love. Like these are his children. He does not fucking around when he says that. He acts and accepts and believes these to be his children.
And again, keep in mind, he handpicked these 19 out of thousands. Soong is super smart. It's reasonable to believe that he read all of the files. And again, of all these 1,800, these are his 19 most favorite.
That he then personally modified further to make them even better. So
air quotes on the better.
Yeah, more effective. We cut back to Enterprise after this, and that's when we finally see Archer and Udar have a conversation. And he's fine, aside from the spinning back fist giving him a bit of a welt on the jaw. And we find out Udar has a second name, which is Snike, I think. And that is Smike. And that's apparently named after the handicapped character of a book named Nicholas Nickleby that I've never heard of. It's a Dickens novel. I'm sorry, this is a
public
literary
school,
reference.
my bad.
Yeah, well, I went to private school. I still didn't fucking read this thing. Like, the only Dickens novel I read in school was Christmas Carol, like everybody else. And he's named that because he doesn't actually have any augments. For whatever reason, his shit did not combine correctly to give him superhuman powers. He is a normal dude. And that wasn't good enough. He is their sibling, but he had to be outcast from the group because he was not capable enough.
This is a real complex character, and I liked him a lot. He has loyalty to the group despite the fact he was clearly ostracized. I'm curious if it was Rakin that ran him off, if it was a group decision that this guy was not going to be good enough to roll with him. If it was he said it was about a year ago that he had separated. Do we have any idea what the time frame was of them getting off of the planet initially?
I mean, that's all happened just recently. I think we know that.
So they outcast him well before any of this stuff happened.
That appears to be the case, yes.
There is a loyalty to the group. There is an admiration of the group. And then there is the twisted upbringing. Is it a twisted up? This is Soong telling them that humans fear you. You're better than the humans. And then being, I would say, erring on the side of caution in terms of like, if you ever go back to Earth, they're going to imprison you or maybe kill you. They fear you because you are everything they want to be and never will be able to. And basically playing up the superiority. But this guy, even though he's not really, he doesn't have up the juice of an augment, still under the impression that Earth is the enemy, that Archer is there to kill him, that when he goes back to Earth, he's going to go in jail. And Archer's like real chill about things. Like, nah, man, I know you were running around with a knife and tried to attack me when I told you who I was. But, I've turned the other cheek. I've
been through some things the last year, so you're not as scary as you used to be.
Yeah. I'm such a big man now. I didn't even take advantage of an opportunity to get punched in the mouth.
Don't worry, that'll come later. Later.
Tundras, yes.
Yeah, we there.
Why don't you come have dinner with me? We're eating steak on our delicious Enterprise budget. Half of this episode's budget has gone into these delicious prime ribs, and you're welcome to have one of them. Hey, you should think about going to school. We are not the enemy, and I have a feeling that you have a misunderstanding of what actually happened. So please have all of our history books, which have been written by the victors of the war, which I'm sure
be very unbiased.
Yeah.
This is where you start to get a little explanation of what the whole augment eugenics war thing is about, to the degree that they can explain it. And I feel like they kind of do enough. The first hint of that is when he's talking to Udar and he gives him, I actually know who your father and your mother are. Your father was this famous intellectual, and your mother was this famous athlete. And here's pads about them. And you start to understand, okay, this makes a lot of sense. What was the eugenics war? It was an attempt by the 0.01% of the elite to have the perfect children. Right? Like you've the smartest guy and you have the most capable athletic woman. Let's put them together. Let's create a natural genetic Superman, and then let's go in with science over the top and just fine tune it and tweak it. And Gattaca it, exactly. That's what it was, is that they made Supermen, and then once they came to maturity, they immediately attempted to take over.
And while you've got this history in the background, you're seeing the events unfold again. There's a blueprint, and history repeats itself. The Supermen have means available at their disposal to live life however they want. They're no longer confined to the surface. And immediately there are power struggles. They make war upon themselves. There are deaths. And there are there are bystanders caught in the crossfires.
Who are treated as disposable from the start.
Absolutely. How much of this jives if we're to take Strange New Worlds tomorrow with the Noonien Singh advancement for
whatever the thing, the facility that their Khan was found in that episode.
Gosh, do we want to take that as congruent canon, or do we want to view this as just?
I think it's still it's conveying some of the similar idea.
Because somebody would have had to start initially. Wrath of Khan had to be born somehow. So was he like first generation augment?
Well, I think that's what they're saying here. Is it was the first generation? No, in overall, because it didn't take but a few of these genetic Supermen to create global chaos that killed 35 million people. And result in wars with that had this sort of near cataclysm on Earth as a consequence.
So, do you think that Khan, let's say that Khan was grown, Khan was a science project, if we're to
Khan and
use what,
his ilk, his first generation. And
and then,
they broke so bad that the other 1800 fucking embryos they had, they would not allow to be born.
so do you think the Noonien Singh advancement of culture commissioned 1800? Do you think Khan got in with a couple and said, cool, we're the future of humanity, round up the best humanity has to offer, force breed them, and then we'll augment them further with genetic engineering from there? Because I think that's the more sinister, and I think for Star Trek, the more plausible was,
Yeah, I agree.
okay, there needs to be
Yeah.
more of us, and we're not, it's AI, this isn't AI building more AI, but it's find me the best out there, and that will be the blueprints that we work from, and we will repopulate Earth in our own image, and then we'll get rid of the humans, and then we'll be able to interbreed from, like, pull a 37s here.
No,
uh
I think you've nailed it. I think that's kind of what they're saying is this is how it started. It started with the 0.01% of Earth thinking they could beat the genetic lottery and interfere with how life is created.
because the augments held continents, so it's not unreasonable to think they didn't have facilities dedicated to making more of them.
Right. And then we hear from Archer that after they find out it's incubators that are missing from the planet, that Starfleet takes this seriously enough that they don't want those 1800 embryos to be unfrozen, right? And they were left frozen. This is such a mid 2000s thing, right? Like no one knew what to do with them because what are they life? Are they human life? This goes unanswered by the episode, and instead suggests, in fact, this question remains unanswered into the far future. So much so that rather than kill them, they froze them. It seemed like kicking the can down the road. We will just put it in a facility where no one can touch them, and they are just frozen in time and in space. You don't have to worry about the moral implications.
As this is all Berman era Trek, you said, like, I know Bashir in Section 31, like, such potent technology when your back's really up against the wall with, like, Dominion War, Borg shit, like, and you could make dudes that can take Klingons out hand to hand. Like, what a big tool to have as your, like, emergency oh shit button.
Well, I mean, when we get into DS9, don't you worry. All right, don't you worry. These are themes that you will not miss,
and it's themes they've already explored. So what they should be doing with this is, like, coloring in the front half of that idea with these past episodes.
Yeah, and this episode is better because of all the free thing you get in DS9 that also helps fill out like how people with genetic engineering are treated in the Federation.
Speaking of filling out, Adam Smasher up in bed with Perseus. Is that her name?
Well, whatever.
Here's the hilarious part. So they're in bed. Adam Smasher is thinking out loud about how he doesn't like the fact that a human is leading the group and that he has outgrown his father, and he's basically looking for his next act of treachery, treason. And Perseus isn't having it. The hilarity here, everybody's wearing shirts that look like are leftovers from when they're 15 and they're just ripped and tattered.
Right. They just not slowly failed to expand with the body.
Like Incredible Hulk, right? Mm-hmm. Cut to them laying in bed, and she has on this purple tank top that is just in perfect condition. And it's just like, where did this thing come from?
And then she goes and puts on the ripped shit again later.
Like, clearly you've got a stash of clothing somewhere, because that is not a Klingon tank top. You've got, I only wear my finest skank tops to bed.
Clearly the actress said, if I'm going to roll around in bed in the scene with this guy, I'm wearing some more sturdy clothing. Come on.
Also, high def Twin Peaks, like, there's a lot of, like, blatant nipple shots in this thing. Like,
not the first in this show. I mean, we had straight up see-through shit in season 3.
Yeah, but still, they're like, okay, make sure that all of her scenes are from the profile.
Of course, she is still pro Soong. She does not want to hear about an overthrow, which is I think, again, like very interesting plot development here.
All the body language I see through this episode, I don't think any of the augments are keen on disposing of Soong except for Malik.
Correct. And, you know, Adam Smasher does in fact identify a piece of fuckable meat and proceeds to continue to romance her in only the way he can after kind of getting the read that she's not in favor of that,
Yeah.
which is like what, like kind of, okay, I have to play this slower. And they take over a Denoblian medical ship. And
interesting that the Noblians are a key part of Cold Station 12.
yes, it sounds like that's something that Earth reached out to them to do because they have such medical expertise as a species.
Interesting too that Vulcans are nowhere in the mix, and Vulcans should have the strongest relationship with Earth of any of the alien species, and yet they are nowhere included in this. And it makes you wonder, like, what would the Vulcan reaction be? It's illogical to have all this dangerous shit laying around. It's time to kill it with fire. Okay, you know what? Actually, thanks for your offer to work on the Cold Station 12, but I think we're going to go with option Denoblian instead.
I mean, as we will find out, there's a natural reason for that. Denoblians are comfortable with genetic engineering. They're comfortable and experts at it, actually.
Yeah, but there's more going on here than just genetic engineering. Like the viral database, this other stuff. Like, interesting choice. And I think ultimately it's just to have a reason why Phlox would know anything about this fucking place, but still pretty cool choices. Hey, there's a Denoblian science ship coming in. Malik, Adam Smasher, I really appreciate your suggestion that we kill everybody on the space station with I don't know, beam them into space or whatever fucking monstrous shit you came up with. We're not killing anybody. Another good clash point between Rick Sanchez and Adam Smasher. Some very good body language where Adam Smasher's like, why is this dude stepping? Like, why is this guy making things harder than it needs to be? We can just kill everybody and move on. I love Brett Spiner's like, no, we're not doing. Like,
yeah.
Go back and watch the episode just for his delivery of shooting him down on that.
He's definitely a kind of a dad speaking to a younger son that hasn't seen him in a while. Like, I'm still kind of treating you like my kids, but you're adults now. There's a little bit of that.
If there's a way to criticize the episode, it is that he never has the conversation with, like, look, guys, we can't be fucking monsters about this. All right.
Yeah.
We're already wanted men. If we go 5-star rating on this, we're going to have a fleet coming after us instead of just Enterprise. We need to prove that we're better. Let's not repeat the past. Let's grow past blah, 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 blah. But again, he's kind of got this megalomaniac aspect himself, never feels the need to stop and explain himself or reinforce, like, this is why we're not killing all the humans we come across. It's just, I say no, that's the rule. You're kids, I'm the adult.
Right. He doesn't feel a need to explain the logic of not getting too much aggro. That we have to balance between credible threat and something that is not worth responding to at the level of force we can't handle. We have to thread the needle. And the moment that you come up with a fucking human corpse out of this, we are fucked. Okay? They are going to come down as the hammer of God.
Kill all the Klingons we want, because they're probably on our long-term list of things to, like, fix in our ideal universe of tomorrow.
Right.
But we cannot be the bad guys. We cannot be evil. Right.
Yeah, to humans.
So, big fatal flaw there in his decision-making tree, which is critical for any good Star Trek antagonist.
So there's a through line that begins around this time in the episode that I imagine you picked up on and has interesting backstory to, and that is when Archer informs Phlox that the director of Cold Station 12 is his friend, and I say that with air quotes, Jeremy Lucas, whom we know. This is the person that Phlox has done correspondence with, most importantly in Dear Doctor, and has been established as someone that he's certainly familiar with. This show is definitely trying to make sure that you understand that Phlox and Jeremy Lucas are very good friends. They're very, very close. And yes, it is confirmed from the producers. I couldn't find the record of this in Memory Alpha, but it was 100% in the cultural zeitgeist, closer to when this came out. They wanted to make them explicitly confirmed for gay. That was the intention. Was we know Phlox is got very open with his romantic relationships, and that Denoblians have
Unless
tons.
it's to Paul in the decontamination chamber, then he wants nothing to do with it.
And
Clearly not his thing. He's into chubby dudes.
he likes
Which
what he
reinforces
likes.
that. You know what? Go back to whatever that fucking terrible episode where and to Paul's horny. And yeah, that's why he didn't want anything to do with it.
She's thin. Even his wife that came on board was more of a MILF, you know? He's got a type, and then there's just gotta be volume, right?
Cushion for the pushing.
And so the idea that Phlox, being somebody with a ton of romantic entanglements who's very open about them, would also be banging Dr. Lucas actually makes perfect sense. Okay. That conforms to our available fact pattern about Phlox. And the argument was made that, hey, DS9, we had lady gays. All right. We did that. We did lesbians. But Two Dudes hits different. They struck it down the idea of making it explicit, but they left all the subtext in for you to pick it up.
I didn't pick up on it. My headcanon is that the guy who gets stuck in the execution chamber might have just been a dick that nobody actually liked. So
He was like the office chud.
made it easy for Lucas to be a good administrator, but then there's his pen pal that he's known a long time, and just an actual friend, and that's what was forced it over. But I see now what you're saying, and cool. It works good.
The big hint of where it was going to be explicit is when Malik comes back over and asks Dr. Lucas, I heard your colleagues talking about you and Dr. Phlox. Is what I hear true? And they don't respond. And that was going to be in a different universe where confirmed for gay. But instead they subbed it out for something that was implied and then execute on what happens there. So
it works. It's a shame that they did scrub the gay out, because I think that would have put Lucas in a better light, because like this, I come out of this being like, Lucas must really look like fucking garbage to his employees now. It's like, you let Dr. Patel fucking die of Rigelian eye plague, but then you save the second guy. Like, saving Phlox makes the initial sacrifice like way worse. So whatever.
We're at an hour already, Peter.
Yeah. Time flies when you've actually got things to talk about.
And I'm happy for that, by the way. Like, the fourth season obviously has a lower amount of episodes overall, so I'm not really displeased with the idea of us making extra content. But we struggled for so long through so much shit early in this show, so many just bad to low mid episodes that were just hard to get through and hard sometimes to find things to talk about.
Because it was throwaway bullshit plot / alien of the week. And the weakness of Enterprise is that they should have so much foundational material to explore instead of doing stuff that in any way relates to subsequent series or big events. It was just we're on the cowboy planet. Oh, we're on the mud planet. Oh, this episode doesn't even happen at all because of timey-wimey brainworms. Versus now, we are close to Earth. We're touching franchise pillar plot elements. In this case, augments. You got one of the most important Trek actors of all time, Brett Spiner, putting in banger performances, and it's all relevant, right? Everything
Yeah.
is meat that is on the bone here.
And I feel, this is the reward for having slugged through what we've already done, right? And I don't mention this often enough, perhaps. Shout out to our fans. You guys are a bunch of psychos. I can't believe that you guys have hung in there through some of the crap that we've had to endure, particularly with watching the first couple seasons of Enterprise. But every week I see it. There's just a bunch of people downloading this shit. Like, I'm glad. I'm really happy. But fuck, this show was not good. And then it's storming of the gates into quality over kind of the last third of season 3 directly into now is just a stunning reversal. And I want to savor it. I don't mind spending extra episodes talking about these because like we've earned it,
And there's a trade-off, right? Like the shitty episodes that sucked, it's easier to be funny because they're bad episodes and it's easy to make fun of it. I don't really know where our humor level has been over the past couple episodes.
Probably we were plenty funny about Borderlands with the big show and all the Ho train. Don't worry.
Sure, but we're not comedians doing a Star Trek podcast to poke fun and laugh at it and be mean. Like, we're legit Star Trek fans, and this is why I watch Star Trek, is for good stuff like this. And
yeah,
it gets harder to make the jokes, or there's not a need to make the jokes to fill up airtime because there's like legit cool shit to discuss.
This is why I can't listen to newbie Star Trek. Have you ever listened to them? They've become a relatively popular Star Trek podcast of mostly LA comedians, all kind of in the Zoomer category. And there's 2 that are big Trek fans, and there's 2 who have never watched it. And the 2 who have never watched it watch the episodes along with everybody else, and then they have to summarize what happens. But they're being LA comedians about it.
Sure.
And they do too much joking, and they're not enough like trying to treat what's going on from a serious dramatic perspective. And so they can be into like their jokes are funny, but when it comes to like the really like good episodes, like the First Duty or something like that, they're not getting it the way you'd kind of hope them to, or they're like making the turn into appreciating it. And for this, for us, we vibe different. We like to dig in deep, and I hope everyone else is down for that too, because I'm looking forward to talking about this for another hour.
Yeah,
in our next
episode. That's not to say every one of these episodes is going to be a 2-parter, but certainly this 3-part arc, the first 2 episodes have been plot rich, lore rich, and performance rich. So
yeah, we're going to take our advantage. We're going to take advantage of that while we can. So thank you for listening to V'ger Please. We'll be back again next week for our part 2 of our review of Cold Station 12.
Now, if you excuse me, I have to go back to Night City. I've got some business to attend to.